outside if they're an assistant provider, or they're actually there in their home with their family. And then the environment of the home changes. And so it's important to really think about how can we prevent the spread of disease in that way. And it's important to have good general health of the family, and the licensing requirements refer to that as far as the family members themselves, how they're supposed to be in good health and free of disease.
Let's talk a little about when a family first enrolls a child in home care. What are some of the things we need to know?
I think that there are some important things to remember as a child care provider, and that one of those is to talk with a parent about what's normal for that child and also how that child acts when they're ill. The other thing that's important to focus on would be their immunization record. It's important to write down the immunizations that they have and also the immunizations that they might need. And in a child care home, we want to think about when a new child comes in, you're also bringing in a new batch of germs that you introduce to the other children that are in care. So it's very important to evaluate that child to make sure that they're healthy and how the parent, the things that the parent wants to be notified about. It's especially important for infants that the parent be notified of different things that happen during the day with infants, and especially if they become ill.
What about situations when a parent shows up with a child who's sick?
I think one of the best things that a child care home provider can have is a policy on how they want to handle children who are ill, because obviously that is going to happen sometimes, and if the parent knows up front and the child care home provider is aware and they have it written down, then it becomes more clear. But it really depends on the degree of illness. Some children maybe are just not feeling that well, but maybe they're not contagious. You have to think about the children who are present, and if you can actually have the facilities to separate that ill child away from the group. Most of the time, children who are ill do need more care, and the child care provider has to be aware of that, because she may not be able to provide the attention that a sick child needs. But it is very important to keep that child separate from the rest of the group. What we know about germs is that you're exposed to germs once and then you may not get ill. But then if you have repeated exposures, you are more likely to get ill. And some children are just more likely to get sick. Maybe their immune system is not as strong. Maybe they're just getting over an illness. But it's important to have policies and refer to the requirements on the administration of medication. There are obviously some times when it would be very important for a child who is ill not to be in care, and the parent and the caregiver can evaluate that. Because if the child is contagious with a disease, then maybe the physician has actually said they should not be in care for 24 or 48 hours. Then the caregiver needs to know about that. And it's important also, I think, to have a sheet or some way that you can inform the parents of what's happened during the day, especially if the child has been sick. The parents need to know if they're napping more, not eating as well, didn't take their medication. All these things are very important in the care of ill children. And I think, again, the requirements refer you to have some specific things about that.
Thank you, Diane. Is there one thing that stands alone as the most important safety issue in a child care home?
Well, I think that is washing your hands. I just cannot say enough how important hand washing can be. Because what we know about hand washing is that if it does prevent the spread of germs, but it also prevents a lot of diarrhea type illnesses, just hand washing alone. And as a matter of fact, there's an actual way that we suggest that you wash your hands, and it would be a fun way to show you that if you've not ever experienced the real true way to wash your hands. So what do you say?
Let's go do it.
It's important for children and caregivers to wash their hands. There are certain times that you really want to focus on hand washing, and for a caregiver, that's before food preparation and also before feeding children, and then after diapering and after toileting or going to the bathroom themselves, and after cleaning up any kind of bodily fluids or things like wiping noses. It's a very important time to wash your hands, and then after feeding or handling pets. And with children, what we focus on them washing their hands before they eat, and then also after they go to the bathroom. When you come to this hand wash area, you want to make sure that you have soap and paper towels here, and it's important to have warm water simply because you're just a little bit more inclined to wash your hands. Work up a nice lather. The soap is what combines with the dirt to get that off your hands. You want to wash your wrists, your hands. A good way to remember how long to wash your hands is to sing happy birthday 2 times. Work up a nice lather, hold it under the water, get all the soap off, wash your wrists, push up your watch, move around your rings. And it's important as you reach for the paper towel to dry your hands with the paper towel and then turn off the faucet with that paper towel. And another very important thing to remember is that the kitchen is really not the place where you want to wash your hands after you've changed a diaper. When you're selecting an area where you're going to change diapers, it's important to focus on several things. And you want to select an area that is away from your food prep. You want your supplies available and close to water. And then it's always important to refer to the requirements for the specific things.
Diane, thank you. You've given us a lot of information today. Is there a closing thought you could leave us with?
Actually, there are a couple of things. I think it's important for child care providers to think of this as an equation, to make the decision to make healthy choices for good hygiene, and then also to put those things into action, practicing good health behaviors. And the very most important thing that a child care provider can practice is washing hands. And if I had to say one thing that they could remember, and also for the children, would be to wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands.
Now let's look at your responsibility in transporting children. You may drive children to and from school on special trips, or maybe you'd only put a child in the car for emergency reasons. In any case, you need to know how to safely transport children in vehicles.
We're here at the Midwest City Fire Department with Captain Jerry Loika, Public Education Officer. Captain Loika, thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Before we get too far into this, just how important is it to keep a child strapped in all the time? Say I just want to go around the corner, get something at the store. Is it critical that I strap my child in every time?
It's really essential. Most people feel that because we're just going around the corner that nothing happens, but statistically we know that most serious accidents that occur where children are injured occur in a residential situation, not on the freeway.
What are the common mistakes that people make with regard to child seat safety?
Some of the most common things that we see are that most parents don't take the time to read their manual. And this would go for caregivers also. They need to understand what kind of seatbelt system they have in their car and then follow those recommendations. The next thing is that they don't attach the car seat properly to the vehicle. It's too loose and they don't understand how to tighten it. And then the third thing is they don't properly attach the child to the car seat. So with all 3 of those factors playing into it, it's like the child is not restrained at all.
Captain, it seems like there are dozens of types of car seats available. Can you help us understand just what types are actually available to the consumer?
Yes, it can be confusing, and we have 4 different types of car seats that are here. We begin first with the infant only, and those are designed to carry infants in the rear-facing position only. Then we move to the combination type seat that can be used for either a rear-facing infant until they reach their designated weight and age, and then they can be turned forward-facing. The next one is for toddlers only, that will never be used in a rear-facing position. And then we have a booster seat so that once they've outgrown the toddler seat, that they can move to a booster seat prior to the time that they go into a seat belt system.
All right, Captain Loika, if you could please show us how to secure the child seat in a minivan, for example.
Be happy to. In this particular car seat, we're fortunate that we have 2 belt paths so that we don't actually have to use the base.
What's a base?
Well, some of these car seats that are carriers also will have a base attached to them, or they must be attached to the base when we place them in the car. In this particular instance, we don't have to have one because it has an additional belt path on the car seat itself.
All right.
One of the most important things we need to remember when we attach the car seat is to put the carrying handle in its down position. That's the way they're designed. And with the baby out of the car seat, we will attach it to the vehicle, being careful to make sure that the belt goes through the